Now, US troops are withdrawing from Afghanistan this year, with almost all of the 34,000 remaining American soldiers due back home by the end of the year. Returning combat veterans are frequently referred to as heroes, but many are finding their homecoming is far from heroic. Nearly 50,000 veterans from the Afghan and Iraq wars are homeless, according to figures from the American government, and that number is rising. Many of them find their way to the warm climate of Southern California, from where Inigo Gilmore reports.
Los Angeles, California, home to Hollywood and a mecca for the starstruck, the bold and the beautiful. But there's another face to this city. This is Skid Row in downtown Los Angeles. There's now an estimated 60,000 sleeping rough in the City of Angels. What's particularly shocking is that many are military veterans.
And this is you with your belongings. This is your life here, right?
I met Wellington, a veteran of the first Gulf War, who had just stepped off a bus from Colorado.
What do you have here?
Underclothing. I got one shirt, one scarf, this coat that I got in Colorado.
He's been homeless for 2 years. He told me he has mental health issues linked to the trauma he suffered in combat.
I have nightmares.
Yeah.
It's sad. At least over there, you know who your enemies are. Over here, it's hard to choose which is the enemy.
Taking the fight to America's enemies has in recent years preoccupied the military men and women of San Diego, home to the Pacific Fleet. Just down the road from where these multi-billion-dollar fighting machines are readied for war, is this unique refuge for the casualties of combat. This is the Veterans Village of San Diego. There are 500 beds here for former servicemen who've nowhere else to go. And this place is now seeing a huge influx of veterans from the recent wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. As the director of the village explains, they get intensive treatment for trauma and addiction. It's run like a military barracks.
And set up like a squad bay. When you come into our program, we're going to take you back psychologically to a point in time when you were in the military because you had pride.
Right.
And we want to reinstill that pride when you're here. These folks have enormous issues with relationships, with trauma, which causes perhaps abuse of alcohol and drugs. They can't get a job. They act out. They wind up in jail.
Yes.
These are two of the veterans whose own battles brought them here.
That's the big thing, too. You got to get used to your roommates. And
Randy Vaccaro from the Bronx in New York did 3 tours in Iraq.
less to explain.
He was left deeply traumatized by the deaths of his friends in Fallujah.
We were surrounded by insurgents. It was a small arms ambush with snipers embedded. And my friend Glover got shot. I saw my captain shot too as well. You know, trying to get the bodies out of the street. And I remember the last thing I grabbed out of the street that day was Glover's Kevlar filled with blood and brain matter. That was what I grabbed. And it was just that whole incident, you know, replays in my mind. You got the medication that originally I wasn't sleeping, and now it's helping me sleep, but my nightmares are more intense. So now I'm like, you know, where do I go with this, you know?
You wake up like shouting and stuff, or?
Wake up shouting, covered in sweat, can't go back to sleep, heart beating, anxiety.
When you first came back to the United States, did you feel you dealt with the trauma that you experienced?
No, absolutely not. Our debrief was maybe a month long. And you get asked a couple questions and you're kicked back out into society. And I call that, it's post-deployment mayhem. You come home, you got money in the bank, but you don't know how to retrograde in a normal civilian life.
Incredible as it may seem, the only job Randy could get when he returned home was as a grave digger, spending his days burying dead men, women and children. He later moved to Las Vegas, seeking a new life, but found himself trapped in a spiral of alcoholism and addiction.
So did you end up homeless?
For a few months, yeah. I was just couch surfing pretty much. And
what happened? Did you lose your place?
I couldn't make it. I couldn't make it to work, so I wound up going on a medical leave from work. I was in and out of the VA, talking to psychiatrists and therapists and everything, trying to do everything I could to fix it, but it wasn't going to be an overnight fix. It's hard to admit, you know, being a tough guy Marine, it's hard to admit that you got a problem, especially with drinking or anything else. You want to take it on yourself.
Okay. This is my spot here.
Former Marine Jeremy Thomas
that's my desk.
lost his left hand and suffered shrapnel injuries in a bomb blast in Afghanistan.
That's your life?
Yeah, pretty much.
Back home, he struggled with severe psychological problems, which led him down a path of drug addiction, crime, and jail.
It really scarred me, having friends that lost their legs, friends that died, friends that were shot, developed severe depression from it.
Must be difficult to cope with that, isn't it?
Very. I started self-medicating with drugs to, you know, deal with all those mental disorders I had and the pain I had. My wife left me and took my daughter, blew through all my money, put myself in debt. It's very hard to stay afloat when you have so much wrong with you and when you're abusing alcohol or drugs, and you know, it pretty much always ends up badly for veterans when they get involved in that.
A couple of vets we've lost due to, I would like to say, pride. You know, that Army, I can take care of myself, I don't need anything.
Back in Los Angeles, we traveled around the streets of West Hollywood with Reggie Holmes, who works for a homeless charity.
Actually, on last week, we found one veteran passed. Had to come and identify his body right here on the corner. So
he died on the street?
Yeah, on the street.
His outreach work involves trying to locate veterans and get them into accommodation.
4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you can see the vets gathering, and it's amazing, man. It's amazing, all the young guys that are up in there, yeah.
Among the shelters Reggie works with is this discreet location run by Volunteers of America. It houses veterans almost exclusively from Iraq and Afghanistan. We met Jamar Johnson, who spent weeks hiding his homelessness. So ashamed was he of the stigma it carries among former military men.
You know, you go to the movie theater, you stay an extra 3 hours, you know, someone wakes you up, you say, oh, I'm sorry, and then you go back out. You know, you find ways to just survive. This is the last thing I thought I would ever be. I did everything they said. I went to school, I got good grades, I have a master's degree, I served my country. Look where I ended up, I still ended up here.
The numbers are escalating exponentially.
So many recent veterans are struggling on their return that it's now being described as a tidal wave of homelessness.
The tsunami is here. I mean, it's not offshore. I mean, it is here today. We're beginning to feel the effects of it. In 3, 4, 5 years from now, we're going to be overwhelmed with these men and women, regardless of the enormity of resources that are being poured into prevention. And there is. You're still going to see it.
President Obama's administration has promised to end veterans' homelessness by 2015, and billions are being spent getting veterans off the streets and into treatment. But the large-scale drawdown of traumatized troops from Iraq and Afghanistan, with tens of thousands more returning this year, poses an almighty challenge. Men and women who serve their country now find their country is struggling to cope with them. Inigo Gilmore, Channel 4 News in Southern California.